Well, welcome YouTubers, thanks for checking out this video. Now I do know the Xbox One is quite old right now because we do have the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 just on the horizon. Should be out this time by next month, if anyone's lucky enough to get their pre-orders, that is. But for me, in this generation that is ending, I've always stuck with the PlayStation 4. You may call me a bit of a fanboy, but I never found the Xbox One appealing because of the interface style. I kind of didn't like the look of the console and the lack of exclusive. The PlayStation 4 did seem quite appealing, even though it was the bad history of the Xbox 360 that I had, and I've stated that in a fair few videos that I've made. By the red ring of death, and I got to my third one, I was like, I'm not trusting the Xbox brand anymore. But I thought, you know what, they've had a lot of updates, and because of the new consoles coming up, I've always stuck with the PlayStation 5, but you know, I should actually give the Xbox a chance. So I went ahead and bought one second hand, but the first thing I noticed, there was a couple of problems. So the box have seen better days, but it is second hand. But as I got out the console, I don't think it takes discs. Well, it doesn't have Wi-Fi. I'm not sure what's going on. I think you might be able to. There we are. Jokes. So the first thing, as a PlayStation fanboy, I noticed is, of course, you know, you can see it is really good condition for a second-hand one. It looks next to new, but like a HDMI in. What's all that about? What is that about? We don't have that. But they did bring back the SPDIF. Since PlayStation 2, we've had is a form of digital out audio. But a lot of people do use the HDMI these days. But to be honest, it is pretty sweet to get this. And the fan is pretty huge. But yeah, I'm really happy with the purchase. It is looking pretty nice. So when it came to the actual controller, obviously I have used the 360 in the past and it's basically a duplicate of that, but it has been refined. But here is my PlayStation 4 controller, a lot more used out of the two. So I did think, coming from the PlayStation 4 to the Xbox One controller, the triggers do seem a bit more easier to trigger. Very smooth controller, and the grip on the handles, I think, is more of a stretch on the PlayStation 4. So I did find a bit more of a handache with longer gameplays with the PlayStation 4 rather than the Xbox One. But to be honest, I do really think that the PlayStation 4 controller has been the best one yet, especially comparing it to the PlayStation 3. But adapting to this one, they both basically have their strengths and their weakness. And I've always been a fan of the Xbox and 360 controllers because how it resembled the original Dreamcast controller, which is my favorite in the collection. So I do think this is more of a refined controller from the 360, but to be honest, they are both awesome controllers for both consoles. Now I've got my Xbox One up and running. I've been playing this for about almost a week and a half, and I must say the update was pretty immense. It was about 3.6 gigabyte update, so when I first turned this on, and also there were things like updates to your controller, and then also to actually play anything you had to actually install the media player. Then there's all these other things like popping up about the Xbox One perks, so it was quite time lengthy compared to the PlayStation 4. And also you had to install a Blu-ray player when I put anything in. So that was a bit weird. But there's a lot of updating and installing. For instance, this game, Halo 5, this was almost 100 gigabytes. So I didn't actually get to play this game on my first 2 days. I don't have the best actual internet connection, but that did take long. Now when it came to internet speeds, the Xbox console does allow you to be uncapped with how much you download, unlike the PlayStation 4. But I did find the stability was a bit all over the place, so I'd be downloading things full speed and then it will dip to slow. It was a bit all over the place. So to be honest, the strengths between both of them with download speeds are basically almost the same. Now since this original release, the menu system and the OS has had a big improvement, I must say. It's a lot more easier to actually navigate around, and it's preparing you for the new Xbox Series X that's coming. I'm sure this is pretty new, but I have heard it is about a month or two old. I'm not too sure because I'm still new to the Xbox territory. But to be honest, I'm having quite fun setting everything up. As you can see here, You can create a lot more customization, so I got my own custom background, and you can set your own layout, which is pretty handy. And they've added this new thing called groups, so you can actually put everything into sections on the left hand side the way you like it. So the way things I've got going for myself, I've set it up into the actual generation of consoles. So my first one I've got up and running is my 360 titles, then I have my OG, and if I scroll down I've got my mini games, and then I got my Game Pass installed games. Now Game Pass, I've had a good experience. It's about only 100 games on there, but there are some awesome titles, mostly exclusives to the Xbox One, and PC. So that's been pretty fun to experience for the first time. So those little minis are just ones I installed for my discs. So this is where I got all my games together from my 360 and my original Xbox, and I just tested them all out and make sure I've got a little bit lucky on any of these titles, because I know there's a list of compatibility. So I managed to get almost about half of my catalog installed to this console, so that was pretty awesome. So it does mean you have to put in the actual game to activate it, but the most thing I was excited for was the backwards compatibility of Lost, Odyssey and Enslaved, being one of my favourite games of the previous generation. So why now, of all time, to pick up an Xbox One? And what was the tipping point for me to finally pick one up? Well, that would be the release of Phantasy Star Online 2. Now I know for me and a lot of other players, we were all waiting for a console release, and finally Microsoft and Xbox brought that over to us. Now I'm really happy about this. This game is absolutely huge, especially with probably almost around 8 years of updates. So I'm pretty excited and finally be able to play this on a console. Now, why at this time would I make a video on the Xbox One S? Well, I found it very interesting and put me more into perspective to what we are getting in the next generation of the consoles with the release of Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, and which one would I recommend and probably end up picking up. But it always goes down to your personal preference, and two of the consoles that the Xbox have brought out have been perhaps giving you the slighter edge in performance, and I do prefer the design of the console itself. I'm really looking forward to the next generation that is coming up, and the competition between both companies has always been a pleasure to experience, and we the gamers are the ones to reap up the benefits. So if you like this video, hit that button. If you want to help to support the channel, click subscribe, leave your comments below, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.